Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode number 85 of Imprint Cast, a podcast dedicated to the Australian boutique label Imprint Films. My name is Tony Michas, and oh boy, we have a crowd with us today. I can tell you that right now. Joining me, as always, is my partner and colleague, Mr. John Mathews. John, how you doing, good sir?
Doing well, thanks. Yeah, very excited for today. Like you said, we have quite a lineup today and a very special guest. So yeah, very excited to be here. So yeah, doing well.
That's great to hear. And of course, we have family with us. And of course, we'll introduce one of our favorite family members, Miss Suzanne Boleyn. Suzanne, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk to Sam and talk about one of my favourite directors.
Yep, same here. And also joining us is another family member, Mr. Paul Berriman. Paul, how you doing, good sir?
I'm doing good, thank you, Tony. It's nice to be here with everyone, and especially our very special guest today.
Indeed. And now I am going to introduce him officially as our new Imprint Cast family member, Mr. Ron Pettersson. Ron, how you doing? And welcome to the family.
Thanks. Oh, thank you very much. I'm honoured to be a part of the family. Was this a unanimous vote, or did you all vote together?
Oh, it basically, we didn't vote together. It was kind of my decision, I admit. But it was all, it's worth it because your information on film in particular is fantastic and wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm honoured to be a part of the family, and thank you very much for having me here. And it's great to see you again, Sam, and everybody else. And it's great to be back. And I'm looking forward to today's little get-together. Especially talking about De Palma, which I've always loved De Palma these films for a long time. It's very different to how Sam introduces De Palma in your book.
Oh, I can't wait from his early days.
I like probably like others here was in reverse. We saw the latest films had to go backwards to see his whole films, all these titles.
And of course, we have to introduce our special guest. He joined us before on our episode dedicated to Hammer Horror. And today is a very special episode for him in particular because we are also promoting his new book, Confessions of a Brian De Palma Protégé. There you go. You can see it right there. And of course, he was Brian De Palma's personal assistant for quite a few years. And what a perfect guest to have with us on this episode. And welcome to the show, Sam Irvin. Sam, you do not understand how much this means to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me back. I'm really thrilled to be here, and it's good to see all of you that I saw before and some new faces and everything. Yeah. I'm really excited. So thank you for having me. And now we're out of time. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And
yes, indeed. Oh, well. Now, Sam just recently published his new book, which unfortunately isn't available in Australia as a physical copy, mind you. But in the US, you can get it on Amazon, Confessions of a Brian De Palma Protégé. But never fear, it is available in Australia as a Kindle and as an audiobook. Now, I heard this audiobook the instant it came out. I told you it came out here on Halloween 2025, and I said happy Halloween indeed. Fantastic. I got the book. But it is honestly such an entertaining read, such phenomenal stories to talk about De Palma and all his other films. And I heard the audiobook on my way for a 9-hour drive to Melbourne.
Oh my God.
And I could not stop it. I was obsessed with it. It was basically my companion driving to Melbourne and back by myself. And it was the perfect companion. It was brilliant. Thank you, Sam, for doing the audiobook as well.
I always have so much fun doing them. And I do narrate it. It's all my voice. And I had a great time. I will say, though, you definitely need to get the Kindle ebook or the print edition if you're able to, depending on what country you're in, because it's 350 pages, and there are over 1,000 photos that you will miss if you do not see the visuals as well. So that's very important. But I love being able to read it to you as you flip through there. My favorite photo is I put it on the back cover. It's me with Angie Dickinson in the elevator when she gets murdered and Dressed to Kill. And they didn't even want pictures taken of her. And when Brian De Palma was on a cigarette break, the wardrobe supervisor, Alba Scapari, I'll never forget her name, and she was in there taking Polaroids for continuity. And I jumped into the elevator and I said, "Quick, Alba, take a picture of me with Angie." And we got this photo, and this is from a Polaroid taken in 1979. So anyway, I'm so proud of that. Wow. But there's a million photos in here, and I worked for Brian on The Fury, Dressed to Kill, home movies, and then a lot on the pre-production of Blowout for over a year. But the ones that the two films that I really go into serious detail, almost a day by day sort of, journal, is The Fury and Dressed to Kill. And if you are into those movies, this is a deeper dive than you'll find anywhere else. I mean, it literally takes you day for day and has every detail imaginable on the making of those films. And then, what it was like working with Brian, how I met him, which is, funny stories and different things. But it's also a memoir. It's about I grew up in North Carolina, went to school in South Carolina for college, married a woman, then moved to New York, and came out eventually as gay, and met my now husband, who I've been with for 44 years. So this memoir portion of the book is the arc of me sort of moving out of the conservative South into progressive New York and adjusting to finding myself and coming out and all of that. And all of that sort of happened during the De Palma year. So it's really, the two go hand in hand, and it's quite an intertwined story. This is I only am going to be dividing my memoirs up into 3 volumes of a trilogy, and this is volume 2. The first volume was I was a teenage monster hunter, how I met Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and more. Yeah. And this was my crazy monster kid childhood, how I did a fanzine on horror movies when I was a teenager, how I interviewed 35 horror film royalty, how I bamboozled those interviews, and all of that takes us right up to 1975 at the Famous Monsters Convention in New York, where I was Ingrid Pitt's aide-de-camp for the weekend, and the other guests there were Peter Cushing and Michael Carreras, the head of Hammer Films, and Forrest J. Ackerman, the editor of Famous Monsters of Filmland, and Jim Warren, who was the publisher of Famous Monsters, and Vampirella and Creepy and Eerie, and Peter Lorre's daughter, Kathy. It was just this amazing convention. But I had already organized a Brian De Palma Film Festival at my college, which I had to race back to on Monday, right after that convention, and welcome Brian De Palma to my campus 2 days after that. So this book picks up 3 days after the first one. And I kind of pivoted where I really got the impression very strongly that Hammer Films was, and the whole horror film industry in England was on the way down the tubes. And for the longest time, I wanted to emigrate there, and my dream was to be a director for Hammer and Amicus and all those companies. But after that weekend and listening to Michael Carreras and everything, I just realized it's a sinking ship. And suddenly, Brian De Palma coming into my life, I sort of decided to hitch my wagon to him and be a stalker and basically bamboozle my way into working for him, which I managed to do somehow by hook or by crook. And so that's what this book is all about, is me, being a groupie and finally, getting hired by him. And so anyway, it's very heartfelt, brought back an incredible amount of memories, and going through all the old papers and everything that I had kept all these decades, just waiting to be in a book, and now it's all here.
Yeah, I wanted to find out. Like, I know I've read the book, but I'm talking about for our listeners and our audience who watch the episodes. How did Brian De Palma react when you mentioned to him that you want to do a small film festival dedicated to him?
Well, I had my dad owned movie theaters, so I was kind of a spoiled brat. I got in free to the movies and all that stuff in the South, and he showed Sisters, the De Palma film that American International released in the United States, and I saw that and was just completely blown away. I thought it was absolutely incredible. I was a huge Hitchcock fan already, and it was very Hitchcockian. The poster had a review quote that said, compared it to Psycho. And I'm like, yeah, right. But it intrigued me enough to want to go. And the other thing that intrigued me that made me want to go see it was in the credits, music composed by Bernard Herrmann. And I'm like, what? How in the world did they get Bernard Herrmann? And for those who don't know, Bernard Herrmann, of course, was Hitchcock's, main composer of, films like Psycho. And his first film, you might have heard of it. It's a film called Citizen Kane. I mean, the guy could do no wrong. So anyway, I saw Sisters, was just blown away by it. Then I saw Phantom of the Paradise when that opened, and we played it at our theater and first run. And I guess I expected him to just do another Hitchcockian thriller, but I knew this was going to be somehow a musical and somehow a takeoff of Phantom of the Opera. Nothing prepared me for Phantom of the Paradise. It was totally different and completely blew me away. Still had a couple of Hitchcock references. There's the shower scene when he gets the plunger on his face, and that cracked me up. And I mean, I just absolutely love that too. Well, it was the 1-2 punch of those two movies where I was like, this guy is fantastic. Now, neither one of those movies were big hits, and in fact, Phantom was a big disappointment at the box office. Yeah. But I wanted to organize a film festival in his honor, and I wanted to meet him. And he had filmed Obsession, but it hadn't come out yet. It didn't come out for another year. I organized this festival. I had to convince the people on the film committee that ran the theater on campus. I had already become chairman of that, but I had to twist arms to vote yes to do this festival of Brian De Palma that nobody had heard of. And we had to do a co-sponsor because our money allocated by the school could only rent movies. We couldn't pay expenses for people. And so we had to co-sponsor it with the lecture tour, group that would bring in people who were on lecture tours. And that happened to be run by this woman named Carol White, who I fell in love with and ended up marrying. And it was all because of this De Palma Film Festival that happened. So my dad, of course, subscribed to all the trade journals. And in Hollywood Reporter, I found in the production charts under a film that was in early stages of pre-production called Carrie. And there was a phone number for a casting office, which I just cold called. And a woman picked up, and I said, could I speak to Mr. Brian De Palma? And she put him right on the phone. Now, this would never happen ever in nowadays at all. But also the luck of, he happened to be on like a cigarette break. The luck of it happening while he was on a break was even, an incredible twist of fate. But anyway, he gets on the phone, and I tell him what we're doing, and he goes, are you sure? There's never been a Brian De Palma film festival, and I said, yeah, I know, but we're doing this, and I absolutely love your movies, and we're also going to show Greetings, which was an earlier film he had done that starred Robert De Niro, an actor whom he had discovered and put in in De Niro's very first film called A Wedding Party, that was filmed in 1963. It didn't even get released till 1968. And but it starred two unknowns that De Palma discovered: Robert De Niro as the groom and Jill Clayburgh as the bride.
Oh.
And Brian happened to be dating Jill Clayburgh at the time. And to imagine that right at the beginning of his career, he, discovered these two major stars. And, De Niro went on to win an Oscar, and Jill Clayburgh was nominated for an Oscar for Unmarried Woman. And, it's just absolutely astonishing. Well, he also had De Niro in Hi Mom and Greetings. So he did 3 films with him before Brian even recommended him to Marty, his friend Marty Scorsese, for Mean Streets. So the other film we were going to show at the film festival was Greetings, because this was 1975 in November. That year, earlier that year in 75, is when De Niro won the Oscar for The Godfather Part 2 and was now a big star and was very well known. And Greetings had come out in like 1970 or something like that. And nobody had seen it. And it was just a tiny little art house, film that barely anybody had seen. And so we were everybody's interested in seeing it. In fact, convincing the film committee, they were more impressed by the fact that there was Greetings with Robert De Niro than they were about Sisters and Phantom of the Paradise, to be honest. Anyway, Brian he said, listen, I'm in LA. We're doing the casting on this film I'm doing, Carrie, but I live in New York and I need some stuff at my apartment and I'm broke. I said, we'll give you first class airfare to come to South Carolina and get you back to LA. And he said, I don't need first class. If you can switch it to coach and send me to South Carolina, then to New York for the weekend and back to LA, I'll come for the triangle airfare, and it probably won't be any more expensive than the first class ticket would have been just for a simple round trip. And I was like, done. So he comes, and I take him to my film class, and he's drawing storyboards on the board. He's playing cues composed and recorded by Bernard Herrmann for his new film, Obsession, which this was November of 75. That movie didn't even open until August of 76. So we're, like 9-10 months away. And it was the first time anybody had heard those cues. And he had said, and by the way, Bernard Herrmann, I recommended him to Marty Scorsese to score Taxi Driver, and was right at that very minute he was scoring Taxi Driver. Well, when I think back on it now, we're listening to these cues from Obsession while he's doing Taxi Driver in November. Well, the following month in December, Bernard Herrmann finished recording the last cues on Taxi Driver on Christmas Eve, went back to his hotel, and died of a heart attack. And it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up that we were like the only people who heard his score to Obsession when he was still with us. And Brian even said that, yes, and he's agreed to do the score to Carrie, and he was all excited about continuing his association with Bernard Herrmann and everything. So that became a very sad thing after the fact when Bernard Herrmann passed away. But of course, he ended up then using Pino Donaggio to do the score for Carrie. And the reason he got Pino Donaggio is his friend Jay Cox recommended him because of Don't Look Now, which was also one of my very favorite scores then. I had the soundtrack album, which I had worn out. As soon as he mentioned that Pino, when I found out that Pino was doing it, I was like, whoa, that's a great replacement. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I took him in this class. He just was amazing, just explaining how he prepared his films like Hitchcock, all prepped during pre-production, storyboarding it, everything. So all of that was really exciting. Then we did Q&As at the screenings of Sisters and Greetings. And then we saved Phantom of the Paradise for last as the climax of this little festival at midnight. And we asked everybody to come in costume, and we had prizes, and Brian judged the best costumes, and everybody was pumped. It was a 300-seat theater, sold out. And I, you know, after we finished everything, he introduced the movie, and then the lights go down, and I'm sitting next to him on the back row, and boom, on the screen comes the graphic of the dead bird that starts to rotate around. And we're supposed to be hearing the music and the voice of Rod Serling's narration, but there's no sound. And I freak out. I run up to the projection booth. The projectionist is freaking out, and the sound system has blown. And there's no way we're going to fix the sound system after midnight in Columbia, South Carolina. You know, I mean, it's just completely, it's a disaster. And I have to do the walk of shame down to De Palma and the down to the front of the theater and cancel the screening. My dog is upset about it too. But anyway, yeah, we had to cancel the screening, and I thought, oh my God, all the goodwill that I've built up with De Palma has just gotten flushed down the drain. But no, this will tell you his wicked sense of humor. He thought it was hilarious, and he said, "You know what? Phantom of the Paradise has been cursed from the very beginning. Every single step of the way, there's something that has gone wrong with it. It's cursed," and he just thought it was hilarious. And in years after that, after I was working for him and everything, every time he would introduce me to somebody, he loved regaling them with this story and making me cringe. And and even when he introduced me to Steven Spielberg, who was an investor on home movies when we were making that, and Steven came to the editing room one day and he introduces me to him and tells that story, and I was just mortified. But in a way, you know, it made me memorable, and it gave Brian something to giggle about. And so, you know, I guess I can look at it as, you know, a blessing in disguise in a way. But that's how we became acquainted. And then of course he goes off and does Carrie. I should mention that casting session that he was on a break when I called him, oh, you know, it was just the most important casting sessions in the entire history of film, because he and George Lucas were sitting at a table together reading every actor in town for Carrie and Star Wars. Every person who came in the room read scenes from both. It's just phenomenal. I did not know that at the time. I found that out later, of course. But it's just so bizarre that I was able to talk to him in the midst of that history going down. I wish that I had had enough courage to call him and ask and beg to work on Carrie, because it did shoot in the summer when I would have been on break from college. But I was still so mortified and embarrassed by the cancellation of Phantom of the Paradise. I just couldn't get up the courage. But then that fall, Obsession opened in August, was huge with the critics, did very well at the box office. And then 2 months later, Carrie opens and does even better with the critics and is a huge hit for United Artists. And both films get Oscar nominations. The Obsession gets an Oscar nomination for Bernard Herrmann's score, and Carrie gets Oscar nominations for Best Actress for Sissy Spacek and Best Supporting Actress for Piper Laurie. And I'm kicking myself because now he has really arrived. I mean, now his buddies like Martin Scorsese, who'd had hits with, you know, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore and Mean Streets and those early films. Coppola had The Godfathers. Steven Spielberg had Jaws, you know, and George Lucas had American Graffiti and was just about to have Star Wars. All, you know, Brian finally had a place at the table, and I could have kicked myself because I really feel like I could have worked on Carrie if I just had the courage to call him. But I wasn't going to let that opportunity pass again. So when they announced that his next film was going to be The Fury, big budget 20th Century Fox film, now on the heels of Carrie, another, you know, sort of telekinesis mind control sort of movie, I called Brian immediately and I said, "You're going to be shooting The Fury this summer in Chicago. Can I come up and work on it during my summer break?" It was between my junior and senior year in college. And I, before I could get the sentence out, he just went, "Sure." which was even more painful because I think he might have said the same thing if I had asked to work on Carrie. Anyway, so frustrating because to this day, we're going to be talking about Carrie, but to this day, that is my all-time favorite De Palma film, and it's got to be in my top 5 favorite films of all time. I mean, I think Carrie is absolutely brilliant from top to bottom. But I did end up working on The Fury, and I had to go back to school to finish my senior year. And when I was finishing up my senior year, I finally get a call from Brian. Unlike me always calling him, now he called me and he said, "Hey, I know you're about to graduate. I was just teaching a screenwriting course at Sarah Lawrence College this spring, and we've written a script called Home Movies based on a treatment that I had written. And I had the class, divide up the scenes, and we've written it, and we've honed it, and we've got it all ready to go. It's a comedy, coming-of-age comedy. And we've gotten Kirk Douglas to agree to be in it, and Nancy Allen's going to be in it. She was by then Brian's girlfriend, and they cast Keith Gordon. And Garrett Graham, who'd been Beef and Phantom of the Paradise, and we're going to make it as this very low budget comedy this summer in New York. Do you want to? And we're going to shoot it out at Sarah Lawrence College where he was teaching, so we could get free locations and all that stuff. And he said, "Would you come? You want to come up and work on it?" And I'm like, "Yes, thank you very much." I took my last exam and I jumped on the next plane. I didn't even go to my graduation ceremony, and when I got there, I just thought, "Oh, I'm going to be a production assistant like I was on The Fury." But no, he said, "You're going to be the associate producer and production manager." And he basically threw me into the deep end to see if I could swim. And apparently I did okay, because when that was done, he hired me full-time as his full-time assistant, not only to get him coffee and whatever, but he had his own little production company now called Fetch Productions, and there was a grand total of 2 people in the company, him and me. And I was like the person who would open the mail and read scripts and write script reports and do whatever he needed to be done, whether it was picking up his laundry or more important things. And he would included me in on, I got to see him preparing Dress to Kill from beginning to end. I mean, I remember the day he walked in with the script handwritten on yellow legal pads and had me take it up to this place that would type it up and print it up as a script in script form, and watched him draw all of the storyboard cards, and we put cork up in the living room where we could pin them up, and just everything from beginning to end on that film. And that was, even though I'd gone to film school at the University of South Carolina, that was my film education, was really learning, and especially on, I mean, certainly The Fury, but I hadn't been involved in the prep of it. But with Dress to Kill, it was all stages, and it was just magnificent. Now, I've been talking forever, and you guys haven't gotten a word in edgewise. I apologize. That's just the way I roll. I told you. I warned you.
It's all good.
But anyway, that's kind of how this whole crazy thing with De Palma happened, and the kind of crazy stuff that's all talked about in this book.
And the book is full of all those great stories, I must say. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
great
there's
visuals as well. All the images that are illustrated throughout. Yeah, if you can get the Kindle edition here in Australia, which I did, yeah, so many great pictures of those memories.
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it.
Oh, for all of us who've heard the audiobook or read the Kindle, it's a great book. And for this episode, of course, for Imprint release, we are going to be discussing, of course, as Sam just mentioned, his favorite Brian De Palma film, the 1976 masterpiece, Carrie.
Yes.
It's the night of the senior prom. The Bates High School gym is alive with excitement. Everybody is there, even Carrie White, the girl no one likes.
We're all sorry about this incident, Cassie.
It's Carrie!
And everyone makes fun of her. The girl who lives in that creepy house with her crazy mother.
Help the sinning woman see the sin of her days and ways. Show her that if she had remained sinless, the curse of blood would never have come on her.
The girl with the strange power.
If I concentrate hard enough, I can move things.
But tonight, no one will laugh at Carrie.
If you don't have a date to the prom next Friday, would you like to go with me?
She's with the best-looking boy in the senior class.
He's trying to trick me again.
She'll be voted queen of the prom.
You know, I can make sure that you don't hurt Carrie White anymore.
For Carrie, it will be a dream come true. For everyone else, it will be a nightmare. Carrie. A new film by Brian De Palma. Based on the chilling bestseller. Starring Sissy Spacek, Piper Laurie, and introducing John Travolta in his first motion picture role. If you have a taste for terror, you have a date with Carrie.
So good, so good.
I love this cover. I'm sorry, I don't mind. The way Imprint Films did this cover is incredible. Nice lenticular.
It's
both posters.
A brilliant
both
cover.
posters combined.
Poster images. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember at my dad's theater when the poster arrived for the sneak preview. They did a nationwide sneak preview before it opened at midnight on a Saturday night, just the night before Halloween. Halloween that year was on Sunday, if I'm getting my dates correct. And the poster was a huge 40-inch by 60-inch rolled poster in color. It was the first time I'd seen those two images of Sissy Spacek, in the before and after pics of her beautiful pale pink prom dress with the flowers and then the bloody mess side by side. And it just, it had the big letters, sneak preview and the time and everything and a little copy line. And I was so psyched for it because by then I had seen Obsession, which I had also fallen in love with. So he was 3 for 3 with me between Sisters Phantom and Obsession. I was like, holy cow. Can he really pull it off again with Carrie? And boy, I had no idea what I was in for. And I'll never forget being in that audience. We sold out a 500-seat theater. It was relatively new, one of my dad's newer theaters, state-of-the-art equipment, beautiful. Everything was great. The whole place was packed. And the audience went crazy for the movie. But especially, and I guess we can't worry about spoilers after all these years.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's okay.
Especially when the hand comes up from the grave at the end and grabs Amy Irving's arm. I have never heard an audience explode into screams the way they did at that moment. That has to be the all-time greatest boo scare in any movie. And back then, boo scares are a dime a dozen now. They weren't in movies back then. You could literally list the ones on one hand. There'd be like the wait until dark moment when the guy jumps out in the dark. There's Les Diaboliques when the body comes up in the water in the bathtub. There was a few of those, but very, very few of them. And this just took everybody by surprise. And people coming out on the streets afterwards, they were just giddy. They were just so excited and so energized, and just everybody wanted to talk about it. And it was the water cooler thing where everybody was talking about it for weeks after that. In Los Angeles and New York, it ended up opening like the next week. Or later that week. I mean, this was Saturday night at midnight, and it was opening in those cities, I think, on Thursday or Friday of the following week. But in smaller markets like ours, we couldn't get it until, and that was that was Halloween time. We couldn't get it until late November or early December. So there were weeks that went by where anticipation was just mounting like you would not believe. People had heard about it. The people who missed it were like kicking themselves, and they couldn't wait to see it. But the people who had seen it couldn't wait to go back, and they couldn't wait to take other people and watch their reaction when that hand came out. It was a major, major, major moment. And it was also the film that from then on, movie theaters, because it had sold out all over the country. Why people just knew to go to this movie, I have no idea, but they knew to go, and they went. It was sold out everywhere. And it's what put into exhibitors and distributors' minds, oh, we have a big market for Halloween, and we need to be releasing horror movies at that time. And of course, John Carpenter's Halloween was released at Halloween. And and that came in 78. It was 2 years later. And so it really started that whole trend.
Yeah, it's definitely it definitely did start that trend for sure. But yeah, I just got to ask Suzanne, when did you first see Carrie?
I can't remember, but it's one of my all-time favorite films. So probably when it was on VHS, and I'm always surprised when I read comments online, and often I read people saying they kind of don't get it, or that they've watched it way later after it came out and they thought, oh, it's overrated. But I find that's usually men, and they haven't quite connected with it, and they haven't realized how groundbreaking this film is in many ways, like you were saying about the extra scare at the end, which became a trope of horror. Friday the 13th did it. Nightmare on Elm Street did it. But this was that kind of first to have that lull you into a false sense of comfort, and then bang, again, baddie's back at the end. If she is a baddie, that's debatable. And like you said, the Halloween release. And I think it was also really important in girls being represented in film and horror, particularly teenage girls. And I must say, of all my friends that are women, they love this film. So the ladies love this film.
Well, and look at when you say that, first of all, De Palma is so criticized for being misogynistic, and yet this film is all about female empowerment, and it's the complete opposite of that. And I so many, it was also shocking in the amount of nudity in the beginning. I mean, in 1976, this was really shocking stuff. That whole locker room scene, and with Sissy Spacek having her menstrual period and all this stuff is like, oh my Lord. I mean, it was shocking stuff. And yet, I don't talk to many women who were offended by any of that. It was all part of their coming of age experience. They would talk about how, these kinds of things would happen at school, and there were the mean girls, and there were the good girls, and there were the girls who were naive. And I think it just presented all sides of the female experience in ways that were very relatable to women and very instructive to us, guys who might not have known so much about that stuff. And anyway, I don't want to keep hogging everything, but I'm just so excited about it. I just love it so much.
I was going to say, to prepare, I listened to the commentary done by Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and the late Lee Gambon on another release of this film. And she was talking exactly about this, how at the time feminist critics in the 70s really kind of hated De Palma, I guess because he used a lot of nudity and women get murdered. But say my generation, which is just after that grew up with Carrie and all these films, yeah, absolutely love it. And again, I just can't emphasize enough how important it is for girls, teenage girls, to see themselves represented in film. Yes. And people were outraged, say, by the locker room scene, but how many movies do we have with that secret life of boys in the locker room? Yep. The sports, the getting changed, the, boy talk, etc. And this is the same, but a look into the secret world of girls, which of course includes puberty, etc. And I think De Palma as well, he always puts these really taboo or groundbreaking things into his films. So periods, for example, and female sexuality is another that runs through most of his films. And say in Dress to Kill, a mature woman and her sexuality as well. So there's all these things which are traditionally taboo or outside of the normal female gender roles or the way that people are depicted. And I want to add as well about the period thing. There's actually a bit of historical context for that, because adverts for tampons, for pads, were not allowed on television.
No, they were not.
1972.
Yeah.
But even when they were allowed in 1972 in the US, no one did them. The first advert for a pad or a tampon was on television in the US in 1975. So just a year before this came out. But you could not talk about what the product was for, how to use it, and you could not show blood.
No.
So, which is, it's just this unmentionable kind of dirty thing. And it's not a dirty thing. It's just a natural function. So when the girls pelt Carrie with all of these products, that's a really politically charged thing at that time. And I don't think people realize that. Yeah. And interestingly, just some random trivia, Courtney Cox was actually the first person to mention the word period in an ad on television in 1985.
Wow.
So, yeah. So just how taboo and unmentionable this perfectly natural thing is, there's some just context to go with this film, which is why I think as well this is such a special film, because I feel like, maybe he knew that or was aware of that and thought, well, I'm going to put this in the film.
Yeah.
And thank you to him for doing that, because it's awesome.
Absolutely. And trivia, Courtney Cox was discovered by whom? Brian De Palma. He cast her as the girl in the Bruce Springsteen video.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. That's awesome.
And he pulls her up on stage and dances with her. Yeah. That was her first thing.
Yeah, and apparently she did this pad or tampon commercial in 1985. First girl to say period on American television in an ad for period products. So
it all traces back to De Palma.
Yeah,
it does.
even in Australia here in the 90s, like 1990s, I remember there was an ad on TV and it was fantastic. I don't know if you remember it. It was like a faux noir film. It was exactly like a noir film, and a lady has murdered someone and she comes in and soaks up the last blood patch with her pad, and the police are on the way. And
I do remember that actually.
I remember that one.
It was like a high production, like it was like a film, and she's like running to clean everything up before the police arrive, soaks up the blood with this pad, pops it in the bin, and is all composed, and the police come in and she's just this beautiful lady all dressed up in her heels, and that actually got pulled from television because people were so offended that it showed blood from that place. So
wow. What a great concept. Somebody had quite a sense of humor. That is wild.
Yeah, and it was like a De Palma film. It
was. And it brought to mind Sisters when William Finley, who later plays the Phantom of the Paradise, he plays the Mad Doctor, and he's helping clean up the murder that Margot Kidder's committed in the apartment where Jennifer Salt is looking across the way, like rear window, and seeing them. But he, was using paper towels. But I think if that had been made a couple years later, Brian might have gotten that idea.
Probably.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite ads. You can watch it on YouTube if you want. I think it's on there. But again, that shower scene, it's iconic, but also I think it captures something that teenage girls or women remembering when they were teenage girls really get, because you basically lived in fear of getting your period in public in white pants.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
Or in a very short skirt. So when you're a teenage girl, you did not want anyone to know. It was like super embarrassing. Of course, we're a lot more positive about this stuff now. We can talk about it. It's not shameful or embarrassing. But that would have been the experience for just millions and millions of teenage girls. That would have been so embarrassing to, have that happen in front of the other girls. And poor Carrie, she doesn't know what's happening. She thinks she's dying. Yeah. And again, that was a common experience for women, say of my mother's generation. Because no one told them anything. They had no agency, no information.
Sex education in schools was just barely starting and was not done in a lot of schools, and a lot of parents wouldn't sign off on allowing their kids to attend those classes, so it was all there, the ignorance was rampant in those days.
And Carrie's mother, she promotes all of this religious ideology, etc., that is related to women being unclean and the sexuality and these functions being unclean or sinful. She, shows Carrie the Bible, and she's talking about the sins of Eve, and it's all dirty. So I just love the way the themes of this film they work so well. It's really special.
Agreed.
John, when did you first see Carrie? Is it VHS as well?
Yeah, it was. I was trying to think back. It was definitely VHS, and it was around the time when a lot of the Stephen King adaptations were being reissued on VHS, and they just had the big Stephen King banner. And I think at the time when I saw it, I was more going in. Like I said, I was reading Stephen King books. So I was a teenager, probably 13 or 14 years old, or maybe even younger. But I just remember
making me feel so old.
But and I just remember, but I was going in more as a Stephen King horror fan, not a De Palma fan, because at that time I wasn't really you know, I didn't have the film knowledge I have today. And so going in, I saw Carrie and I was quite surprised by it and quite taken back by it. And I just have vivid memories seeing it when I was younger. And I saw it used to play on TV as well when I was younger. I used to watch it with my parents as well. And and I just remember I liked it, but I didn't appreciate it like I do now. And I think obviously at the time I was going in comparing it to The Shining and more just like I was looking more at like through a horror lens. But yeah, and obviously at the time, you know, so the period subject matter and stuff really took me aback because I had not seen a film, you know, sort of cover that at all. And it's interesting, Suzanne, you say, you know, more guys have problems with this film. And I was reading a lot of reviews, and you're right, more that it's actually men that are actually quite disgusted by it. Oh, yuck, you know, it's actually compared to some of the reviews I read, some of the female reviewers out there on Letterboxd. So it was quite interesting just to compare those two. But yeah, it was just, it's a film that has grown on me over the years. And the more I watch it, the more I realize, wow, this is, you know, an absolute classic in the genre. So yeah, it's really something that I see as a masterpiece of horror.
Sorry, man of the world, but the blood is the same blood that comes from other parts of the body.
Yeah,
indeed.
I just want to point that out. Sorry, I'm like,
that's fine.
Sorry,
that's fine.
you can
Indeed.
keep listening, man.
So you mentioned that you saw Carrie for the first time on television in Australia, and I'm very curious as to whether they showed the uncut version or how censored it was.
I can't remember specifically because I've seen it so many times, but Australia did have very heavy censorship, both in the VHS market and rentals, but also on television. So I presume it would have been censored because most stuff was. If you think about, they played Friday the 13th on television here, and you had no idea what was going on. You just, where did that person come from? Where have they gone? You know, it was huge scenes cut out. So
yeah,
I would presume they probably cut parts of the shower scene.
Well, because I remember I saw it because growing up there was this sort of cable service called Foxtel, which we had, which generally played movies generally uncut. So like I said, I'm just trying to remember, but I remember all the key scenes were there on TV, like the period blood and her covered in blood.
Okay.
And
Well,
so from my experience, so but obviously on regular television, it may have been cut down on Channel 9 or something back in the day.
Ron, you've seen you've seen Carrie on television. Was it censored?
Well, this is Susan made a great point of how everything was heavily cut on TV back in the 80s and 70s. They did show the blood. They did show the showering. But what they carefully cut around was showing the breasts. So you don't see Nancy Allen's breasts, you don't see Sissy Stacey. So they carefully cut around so you don't see nipples. You don't see bare breasts.
No dirty pillows for Australia.
None whatsoever. It's quite sad when we don't see dirty pillows. It should be more of a movies, but personal opinion. And then when they get to the end, nothing's cut out of the violence. That's the weird thing. That's nudity. Oh, we can't have that on TV, but violence, we can have the violence, no problem. I remember the jump scare scene very well with my family. We all literally lived out of our seats at the end.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing jump scare. My mother walked out on it because she's very religious. Well, Piper Laurie, is 11. She's one louder with the religious mania. My mother was probably like 7 or 8. She thought it was a bit too much to see that. I felt Carrie's quite significant just as school bullying. Outside the where movies before were about gangs picking on somebody, where in Carrie she's systematically bullied. I mean, she's in the bottom of the pecking order at school, but she goes home to her mother. She's picked on everywhere she goes. She can't win, the poor girl.
Yeah.
And I've seen guys and I've seen girls like that at school when I grew up, and it was horrifying to watch. That's what I find the movie very upsetting for me.
Yeah.
In that respect.
No, I agree with that. And I think, it's the whole outsider theory as to why we all can identify with certain horror films and characters, be it the Frankenstein monster or Carrie, who's just, misunderstood freak of nature, and and bullied and picked on, and everybody can identify with that on some level.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this film, like you said, particularly connects with people that do have that experience of being bullied or being different, and school is that really intense period of that where you're stuck with all these people that you might not associate with otherwise ever. You're stuck with them every day.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me personally, the ending is so satisfying.
Yes.
I adore the ending. That's why I don't see Carrie as a bad character, and obviously most people don't. I love the idea of the whole pinnacle of the, school year existence is the prom. It's the pinnacle of the feminine dream, what girls are meant to aspire to wear their dress, get their hair done, be beautiful, and she just burns it all to the ground. And I love it. I love it.
It's very punk. It's very
statement.
rebellious.
It is.
Burn it all to the ground.
Just
all
burn
your
it to the
dresses
ground.
and chiffon and taffeta and ribbons. Burn it to the ground.
Exactly. You mentioned Nancy Allen showing her breasts in the locker room scene, which reminds me of just one little funny aside. Paul Hirsch, the editor, who also did Star Wars and won the Oscar for it, his credit happens to come up on screen when Nancy Allen is there bare-breasted, jumping over the thing, and her breasts are bouncing. And he had so many people ask him why he never got credit in Carrie, because no one would give him credit.
Oh boy.
They're only looking at Nancy Allen.
Yeah.
You would.
Paul, what were your thoughts on Carrie when you first saw it?
Yeah, I was trying to remember and think back when I did first watch it. I've got my original DVD still, the MGM one with that classic cover that we got here locally. It would have been when I was in high school, probably around maybe 2009, 2010. I would have seen it on DVD. And you've all touched on something that did really relate to me with it, was that feeling of being an outsider and, really identifying with Carrie's character and that cathartic experience at the end where she gets her own back on everyone who really deserved it, because the bullying scenes are incredibly brutal. They're almost more brutal than more modern bullying scenes. These days they might kind of pull back on things, but this was like, you're in there, and the scene in just after she's had her period and they're all throwing the tampons at her and yelling at her, and you see her running forward, and like you said, Suzanne, she thinks she's dying. She doesn't know what's going on, but the absolute relentless kind of mob mentality of all the girls, suddenly they found someone they can pick on, and it's safe for them. And obviously there's that bit of remorse that comes through in the Sue character, which in the book I really liked. It's played down a little bit in the film, but not as much. That whole feeling of the being an outsider and being picked on, and not only at school, but then she goes home and she's got it from her mother, and yet there's still some strength there. She does ask her mum, why didn't you tell me that this would happen to me? So she's still sort of able to speak up for herself, which I also really liked.
It's a great arc of her character.
Incredible arc.
Can I add that I just, one scene I really related to is where Carrie just screamed at her mum, says, "Why can't you talk to me like a normal person? Why can't we just have a normal conversation?" Because I said that to my mother, because it was all the same theology talk, all the same phrases, all the same verses. Wow. And I used to say, "Can't you just have a normal conversation with me? Can we just drop all that?" And I couldn't, because she was not capable of it.
Wow.
And that's a very powerful scene, I think.
I think as well, people that have grown up with some kind of oppressive religious aspect in their life connect with that as well. And maybe people that haven't had that don't quite identify with that either, because it is, even though it is very over the top and almost camp, it's really amazing, and it's just an amazing performance as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to ask, Sam, in your book, you've got these really wonderful interviews with Amy Irving and Brian De Palma from around the 80s. So I recommend people should pick up the book and hear these full transcripts of these amazing interviews. But Amy said that when it came out, people were actually not sure whether she was a good or a bad character. They actually thought she might be complicit. And I found that interesting because it was quite clear to me, but then I'll tell you after, but I went on and had a think about that. But tell us about that.
Well, there were a couple of scenes that were cut out of the film during the editing that would have made it super clear that she was not in cahoots with the bad kids, not in cahoots with Nancy Allen and John Travolta and any of that. But Brian thought that it dragged a little bit, and he didn't think that those scenes were necessary. And he thought that what was left in the film was enough for you to get that she was not complicit. Now, when you go back and really look at the film carefully and watch her character all the way through, there are a few moments where it is a little questionable. Like, for instance, when she's having dinner with her parents and her brother or sister, I can't remember, the night of the prom, she gets up and says, I'm going out. And they go, where are you going? And she won't tell them. And it's a little mysterious. And this is all being intercut with the ballots being rigged and all of the other subterfuge going on, building up to all of this. And I think that some people, took that as, wait a minute, is she in on this? Does she know about this? And it is kind of odd that she would let her, her gorgeous boyfriend take Carrie to the prom. And is she really being is she being genuine with all of her reasoning and stuff? But then it becomes very clear for me where you can't question it at all when she's standing next to the stage and she sees the rope jiggling on the that leads up to the bucket of blood. And once you see her look at that questioningly, like, what is that? And then she's looking down and she sees the silhouette of Nancy Allen and John Travolta under the stage, and she goes around to investigate. At that point, you have to realize that she is not in on this at all. So I do think it's a little weird that Amy would be approached by critics and different people after the film was over to ask her about that and to question her about that, because I think it does become very clear. And Brian, when I talked to him about it, he said, I probably should have left those other scenes in. There was a longer scene with Amy Irving and William Catt, her boyfriend, talking about, why she was guilty and why she wants him to take her, and, being more explicit about her real reasoning. But I kind of like a little bit of that ambiguity of like having a moment of what, wait a minute, is she not, whatever. I think it it wasn't done intentionally, but I think it sort of unintentionally works in favor of the Sue character being a bit of a mystery at moments. But it obviously it all works out in the end, and you understand that those were, you might think that they're intentional misdirects to keep the audience guessing, but they were just accidental misdirects.
I love how you're not sure, and I think especially the first time you see this film, or if you haven't seen it for a very long time and you might have forgotten a bit, but particularly that first time you watch it, which is why it probably just pulled in audiences so fantastically, is that you don't know what's happening. You're following along, trying to work out what's happening, what's going to happen. And then it's just brilliant when Sue is there and she's looking at the rope. You're finding out and working it out as she is, with that wonderful slow motion.
Incredible.
So it's just that discovery as the characters are discovering. It's like you're in the moment with them as it unfolds, and the tension of that is just so amazing. It's like electric. And then, of course, the huge conclusion.
Yeah. But there's also, I just want to mention, there is an earlier scene, too, that's where Betty Buckley, the gym teacher, has called Sue, Amy Irving, and William Catt into her office. And she thinks that Sue and William Catt are Billy. She thinks they're up to something, and she thinks they're going to do something to Carrie. And in that scene, Amy Irving has to defend herself and say, "No, I mean, Betty Buckley is basically saying, Sue, come on, you're telling me that you're sending your boyfriend to take Carrie to the prom instead of you going to your prom? Come on." And she even says, "Come on, you expect me to believe that?" And so the audience is set up to question it. And when Amy enters the prom through the back door and comes over and she sees the rope and everything, as she's going around the stage in slow motion to investigate who it is that's under the stage, Betty Buckley is in the audience and sees Sue going there, and she thinks that Sue is up to no good and is actually doing something at that very moment that is going to sabotage Carrie, and grabs her and takes her to the exit door and is pushing her out the exit door and slamming the exit door at the very moment that that all hell breaks loose. And it's actually Betty Buckley, because Amy Irving might have been able to do something to stop it, but it's Betty Buckley who stops her from saving the day, which I thought was, all of that was just fantastic. I loved the cat and mouse of all of it, and all of the misdirects and people misunderstanding everything.
Yeah, it's an incredible scene. And what I started thinking about it, and thinking about Sue's character, that, she is a little bit complicit, because it can be that case of the do-gooder, so to speak, or getting involved and trying to do a good deed, but it's actually probably not the best idea, because no one wants a pity date, do they?
Right.
And, Carrie's the pity date. She thinks she's doing a good thing, but maybe it's actually quite condescending. And then I always started to get thinking, well, what happens after prom? He just goes back to Sue, and where is Carrie? She's back to where she was. So I guess it's that interference in someone's life, and they're trying to do a good deed, but it's not
there's no good outcome possible out of it. And you're absolutely right. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but you're right. And she kind of, in an indirect way, sets Carrie up to be further bullied by the others. If Carrie was just at home on prom night, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
And we have all the stars decorating the prom.
Yes.
So you get that sense of the star-crossed lovers, the star-crossed people. As mentioned, like in Shakespeare, star-crossed means exactly every possible outcome is bad.
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up. I had never thought about it that way. That is fabulous, Suzanne. That's great.
One thing I gotta say about De Palma, the way he works his camera, especially for that scene in particular. That's long, slow moving.
Yeah, the panning
shot. I know. Well, he storyboards everything. That's what I've read, and this must have taken. I believe the prom scene took 2 weeks to film, if memory serves me correct. I could be wrong, but
something like that.
But for that panning shot alone, that must have taken a hell of a lot of time.
It did, and I'm not that I was there, but I've heard all the stories and talked to so many people who were there, and it's, I mean, that crane shot. It's just it starts with where Michael Talbot and PJ Souls are collecting the ballots, and it starts on them coming through the crowd, and the camera's just ground level, and you just think it's on a regular dolly, and they're following through, and you see where they kiss, and they exchange the ballots and drop the bad ones on the floor, and she kicks them under the table, and then the camera starts to pull back, and then it gets to the stage, and we find Nancy Allen and John Travolta, and then it goes over and follows the rope, and then suddenly it elevates, and you realize the camera's on a crane, and it goes all the way up and across above the bucket of blood, and then you see that you see Carrie and William and Billy out at the table, and they're announcing the winners of the prom, and then it zooms in slowly on them as the announcement is being made, and it finally cuts at that point to a tighter shot of them getting up from the table. But that whole, I mean, of all the set pieces and all of the great long one take shots, that to me is like the greatest thing I've ever seen. It was just absolutely breathtaking shot. It's one of the greatest in the history of cinema, in my opinion. I think it's just incredible.
Yeah, and I love how it uses all the, I mean, it's all the De Palma tropes in it as well. There's a lot of split screen as well, which I just love when he uses that. It just gives that perspective, and you see all the signature, De Palma sort of Hitchcock inspired sort of shots in the film as well, which is just amazing. It's incredible.
And all the split diopter shots as well, which are always a little trademark to nice little shots where you get someone perfectly in focus in the foreground and the background throughout the film.
Yes.
The split diopters are incredible.
Yeah, split diopter.
And the slow motion, just the opening shot, the slow mo is almost dreamlike. It's incredible.
Yeah,
just with that score, it's perfect.
And talking about dreamlike, let's talk about the shot that was done in reverse, which at the end is when Amy Irving is walking down the street in slow motion in this dream sequence with the flowers that she's taking to the grave site, or the burned out pit of hell, and she's walking down the street. And you see in the background, there's a car crossing the cross street backwards. And you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it turns out that they shot it backwards. They had Amy Irving walking backwards on the street, and then reversed it in the cut so that Amy is walking forward, but the car is going backwards, just to give it a dreamy, weird, something's off kilter, something about her hair flowing doesn't look quite realistic, or whatever. And I thought, God, what kind of mind even dreams up something like that? It was just so unique and so unusual, and I just absolutely love that. And that's when Brian was just so on fire. Just all of his ideas were fresh and new and inventive and experimental and just fearless, just absolutely fearless. And that just blew me away.
I'd actually like to talk briefly, about this dreamlike sequence. So that look, and at the beginning, I actually thought it was the shower scene particularly very reminiscent of David Hamilton's photographic work, which was very popular in the 1970s. He mainly photographed girls and teenagers in this very soft, hazy focus, and his pictures, always had a dreamy, nostalgic atmosphere. He, of course, also directed Blitis in 1977. His work influenced Peter Weir's Picnic at Hanging Rock in 1975. That's another coming-of-age kind of horror about teenage girls, and that landed the year before Carrie. But what I love is how this really beautiful vision is interrupted by the horrific reaction of Carrie to the arrival of her period. So it juxtaposes this idealistic vision that was in fashion and photography and the media, and also all of this whole wave of teenage eroticism that was happening in film and literature. It just interrupted that with horror, so it was turning that upside down, and I kind of got that reference there, and that's what I really like about it, because puberty is not all daisies and picnics and white lace and hats like in Hamilton's photos. It can be messy and scary and frightening.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those photos that you're talking about had this hazy quality to it, because he would have a haze machine and blow haze into the photos that he was doing, because it would illuminate shafts of light and different things like that. So it was an artificial way of bringing that out, but it would give these photos this hazy quality. So when Brian used it in the locker room scene, it actually has a realistic reason to be hazy, because the showers are going and there would be steam. I think that's just it's so artistically beautiful, that whole opening shower scene. It's just beautiful.
With the score,
and then
as well.
The horror,
perfect.
The horror just smashes the idealism of that whole look. Yes.
I'm just curious as well, wondering your thoughts on it, Sam. But people have been saying for years that's his nod to Psycho, just with the blood in the shower. I don't know if that's what some people have given theories to as well. Like De Palma's doing a little nod to Hitchcock there, with the blood in the shower.
I think people want to, read Hitchcock into every little thing that he does. And just because there's a shower and blood, of course they're going to think of Janet Leigh. But, when you think of I think the much more direct homage to that is in Phantom of the Paradise, when Garrett Graham gets the plunger. That to me is the ultimate homage to that shower scene. But I'm sure it crossed Brian's mind. It would have, but I don't know that there's anything really directly related to what was going on in the Janet Leigh sequence.
He does tend to enforce in his movies, though, that bathing in a horror movie is not safe or a good idea.
True. That's very true. You're absolutely right about that. Absolutely right. Unlike Hitchcock, who didn't show nipples or anything of Janet Leigh, everything was very carefully orchestrated and montaged out to not have any actual nudity of naughty bits. Brian goes for broke.
But that was also the era of so-called teen porn films. So it would have been kind of lulled people in when they were seeing the opening credits. But I remember, I think it was the editor saying, well, this is happening straight away. Normally it happens in the third or fourth reel.
Yeah.
Where you see nudity. So that was very unusual.
It was. It was quite shocking in its day for all these reasons.
Because it got an R rating in Australia. That means it's strictly over 18. Like you see 17 you have in the States. And that was mainly because of the nudity. It wasn't really the violence, once again. But they slapped, most movies got slapped with an R rating back in the 70s. That was kind of interesting. And
the 70s was quite, the turning point was I mean, for me, it was the turning point was 1970 exactly, with the Vampire Lovers. Up until that moment in time, Hammer had cleavage, and that was it. And all of a sudden, with the Vampire Lovers, my lord, suddenly full frontal nudity and just breasts all over the place, and that was really shocking. When my dad showed that movie, people actually in our town knew of Hammer films. I mean, the reputation was there. It was almost like a Disney movie. You know, you if it had said a Hammer film, you had a certain thing in mind of what it was going to be. And some people were shocked, and conservative people told my father, this should be showing down the street at the adult theater, you know, and because there was a porn house. But it increased the grosses, and usually these films would play a week, and this one held over a second week because everybody's so titillated, so to speak.
It was enormously popular in Australia on theatrical release as well.
Yeah,
it played for a long time. And anyone remember the VHS of Vampire Lovers in the 80s?
I don't know.
I remember the cover. It looked like a woman was they're both in Victorian age corsets, you know, like conservative dress. It looked like a woman was about to touch another woman's breast. And then when you picked up the cover to read the back, it said, "Aha, caught you. You're looking at this cover." So it was just catching you off guard. And of course you go rent it out. Of course, that's what I did as a teenager. And I adored the film so much. It's a wonderful film.
Yeah, I agree.
De Palma does tend to include nudity very early in his films, and I always wondered if that was get the attention of every teenage boy in the audience, so they're sitting riveted, hoping to see another boob or nip slip for the rest of the film, so they've become a captive audience and really concentrate on the plot and the storyline, waiting.
I never had that discussion with Brian, but I absolutely think that's the case. I think that he wanted a hit. He wanted hit films so bad that he knew that if he made something that was controversial, that would get talked about and have word of mouth, that he was already on the road to having a hit. And so, you know, very, very early on in that period, he realized the value of having that in his films.
And there's something in his films that's really playful about it as well. I think maybe particularly in Body Double, where it's almost, I guess today you might call a little bit meta, not really, but it's how he includes films within films and has his little horror movies or TV shows within his films, and it's kind of pointing at the audience and saying, well, this is what you want to see. And I think Body Double particularly comments on that. You want violence, you want sex, you want nudity. This is what you want. And it's also got a little bit of cynicism about it as well, and about filmmaking and film, and that's what I love about his whole body of work. It does have these playful elements to it that do actually say something about culture and pop culture and our world. So
absolutely.
I'm thinking about the beginning of Blowout, where they're watching the same thing. The camera's panning into the college dorm rooms. And they go up to the lady in the shower, and her screen is off kilter. And that just takes you out of the spell, you know, and you can't stop laughing at it. And I think that's one of the great beginnings, I think, of a film next to Carrie.
Yeah.
And also Dressed to
It
Kill.
is. And
I love that.
So De Palma-esque. It's so De Palma-esque that you just think, oh, here we go again. Here he's going down this trope. And then he pulls the rug out. I thought that was brilliant.
And even reflecting that time, you go, oh no, here we go, another slasher film, and then jumps into a completely different film, and it kind of takes you out. So that's what I love about it. He's always playing with different genres at the time. Oh yeah, Blowout
is a masterpiece.
Probably my top De Palma.
Yeah.
That's my favorite films by him are, of course, Carrie, but Blowout definitely. The first time I saw that film, I was blown away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's amazing, just the whole, I don't know, following this sound guy, and it's about hearing and the senses, and it's incredible. And his films, they're also tragedies. Usually they never have good endings. And particularly Blowout, the ending with the American flag, it's like an American tragedy, and it's about conspiracy and paranoia and mistrust in institutions.
Isn't it interesting that so many people will cite Blowout as having this tragic ending, and when Blowout did not do as well as had been hoped at the box office, it was blamed on the ending. And yet Carrie has equally a tragic ending of our protagonist dying, a horrible death, and but yet that was one of his biggest hits. So it was like I think Blowout got a bad rap, and the blame went. There's it just that couldn't possibly be the reason. It was an ending that was shocking and very sad, but he'd had that before, so I don't think that's what caused it to not do well at the box office.
I think Carrie is so much about revenge as well, which is why people, particularly teenagers or teenage girls or people that feel like they don't have a lot of power over their lives at that time, the idea of revenge delivers catharsis and this sense of justice through a character that you can live through when you feel like you don't have that control or any justice in your own life. If you get bullied, if your parents pick on you, if you've got something, like I said, it's burning the prom to the ground, and it's like, yes.
Just
and it is that control over powers as well.
Isn't it curious, though? I've thought a lot about it, and I don't know that I have the right answer. Suzanne, you probably will. It is interesting that you have the catharsis of the revenge, but the vigilante in her, she dies in the end, and there isn't that happy, triumph where she walks away to a better life. And I just find it interesting that it's such that audiences still bought it. They like, even though she paid for this with her life, it was worth it to burn it all down. It was still worth it in the eyes of an audience. And isn't that interesting?
It's like what we see in Heathers, which I think is just this feeling of nihilism as a teenager. And also there's the thing with Carrie, she's not of this world. Maybe she's not meant to be here. And maybe a lot of people have, unfortunately, those feelings when they are going through those difficult teenage years, that it's just this ultimate destroy it all.
I mean,
burn it all down.
It's really, unfortunately, I don't want to get too heavy here, but when you have school shootings and the shooter ends up taking their own life and things like that, I can't help but think about Carrie when those things happen, and it's very tragic and very sad.
I was going to say earlier, and just touch on that a little bit more, but Carrie, I mean, there've been films before that touched on bullying, but I think Carrie was one of the first to really show these bullies as really sort of horrible, psychotic characters almost in a way. And that's part of the horror of the film. And that's why it's such a satisfying payoff at the end, even though, like I said, unfortunately she doesn't make it at the end. But it's just, it was one of the first ones to really show the horrors of bullying. And I think that's part of the horror of the film itself, definitely, is with those characters.
Definitely, I agree.
And
they are...
Look at Nancy Allen as an example. I mean, all the performances in this film are absolutely amazing. Nancy Allen, when I met Nancy Allen for the first time, when I went up to New York to work on home movies, I was a little scared to meet her because to me, she was Chris Hargensen. I thought she was going to be a mean, B word or C word. I mean, I really thought she was so mean and horrifying in that movie. I couldn't imagine her being anything other than that. And yet, in real life, it turns out that she is the sweetest, most soft-spoken, loveliest person on the planet, and we're still good friends to this day. We literally just had lunch a couple weeks ago. I was just texting with her today. We're still besties. And it's just a testament to her as an actress, how well she played that character. And then when you see her in home movies playing a completely different character, and Dressed to Kill and in Blowout, I mean, and then on the RoboCop movies and everything else that she's done. I mean, she's got such a wide range of characters. And think of the Zemeckis film, I Want to Hold Your Hand. This shy little retiring, fan of the Beatles and hiding under the bed and trying to see them at the Plaza Hotel and stuff. I mean, I just love her so much. And wow, that's such an incredible performance that she does in Carrie.
Can I mention
She's the original main girl.
Oh, she is. She took
the original
that
main girl.
Slap across the face 30 times. That was 30 takes, wasn't it?
Yes, and
that was real.
It was real, and not only that, but there are several slaps in the movie, and when you see it now with modern audiences, Nancy hosted a big anniversary screening for the 40th anniversary, and it was in this huge theater downtown in LA with 1,500 people, most of which were Carrie fanatics. And when those moments come, when Betty Buckley slaps the shit out of her on the field, and in the car when she gets slapped by John Travolta, and then she slaps John Travolta, it's like everybody was like, people had forgotten and hadn't seen those moments in decades, and it was really kind of shocking. I mean, you just don't see that kind of violence in movies as easily as those moments happened back in the day. I mean, those were really are very shocking now. I don't think you have women getting slapped like that in movies these days without it being quite shocking and wow, it was something.
Especially by her
obviously
boyfriend.
The teacher would immediately be fired. The parents would be jumping down their throats and firing the teacher. John Travolta would be instantly canceled, cultured. I mean, it's just like, wow, it's a very different world we live in now.
Yeah, and Chris even threatens them with like, oh, my dad will come in. Like, my dad's this, big shot lawyer. He'll come and if you try doing anything, he'll sort you out. And then there's a sequence in the book where the dad comes to talk to the principal. But like, yeah, she's just trying to hide behind that and use that as an excuse.
Yeah,
and that's why she's a bully, because her father's a bully.
That's
right.
That's right. And I was going to say, obviously, just touching on Travolta, I mean, he was virtually an unknown at this stage. I mean,
he really was. He was cast when he Welcome Back, Kotter, which was the TV show that he came to prominence in as Vinnie Barbarino. It had started shooting, if I recall, but it hadn't aired yet when Brian actually cast him. And so Brian didn't know anything about that series, at the pulse of finding these amazing people. This was Betty Buckley's very first film, and she goes on to be this Tony-winning, amazing actress, and has a big hit series as well. And, it was Amy Irving's first thing, and Nancy Allen had done 2 tiny little, nothing roles before this. Just so many great actors get cast in his films, and even Sissy Spacek, who had done Badlands. I mean, this was the part she was born to play. I mean, it was just to have the vision that she was the one to do this was just amazing. she had worked on Phantom of the Paradise as a set painter. Her husband, Jack Fisk, was the production designer, and she's credited at the end of Phantom of the Paradise as a set painter.
She also did set design on David Lynch's Eraserhead, didn't she? I believe she did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Fisk has done a lot of wonderful movies and is still working today.
Yeah.
He's great.
I couldn't picture anyone else in the role because I know there was a first preference and she wasn't originally first preference, but yeah, obviously I can't visualize Carrie without.
No, you really can't. And as many remakes as they've tried to do,
no,
I just can't get into it.
I'm sorry. I did not like this one. I'm sorry.
And there's a TV
I don't
one,
like
isn't
this
there?
remake at all.
There's a TV movie too, yeah. Oof, yeah.
Sorry, guys, the girl's too cute.
Yeah.
That's
She's not
right.
awkward. She's just too cute.
Yeah.
And Sissy Spacey projected this awkwardness about her. It was great. It was amazing.
It was
when she showed up for the audition, she put Vaseline in her hair and all that to make her hair look stringy. Yeah, she went full method on that.
There's a scene that got cut out of Carrie that I would love to see. There are photographs of it. There's a photo in my book. Maybe I can find it real quick. But
is it this one?
It's the flash. It's the flashback where she's a little girl.
Oh yes, that was the opening. That was meant to be the opening, wasn't it?
That was supposed to be the opening because in the book they showed something about the stones hailing down again. But
that's
I believe,
right.
Yeah,
I believe Brian De Palma. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I believe Brian De Palma shot it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I believe that's what I saw.
He mentioned that he did shoot that scene. Yeah, it's an amazing scene in the book.
Here
and
it
it's
is.
Really great. Yeah.
But they had her. They did an oversized picket fence. Let's see if we can see it there.
Oh yeah.
You can. Oh.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
See, it's an oversized fence,
yes.
And it's got the regular house behind her, but she's kind of probably bending down even to be shorter behind that oversized fence and made to look like a little girl. And then when she turns around and is going back in the house, they did use a double at that point from behind of an actual little girl when you see her from head to toe.
Yeah.
Going into the house, from what I understand.
But yeah, with this imprint release, they included some art cards, and I think this image was one of them. I believe this was.
Let me see.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's at the fence. Yeah. Yeah. It's on the.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, on the lobby card. I mean, are they gone, those scenes? Because they've never appeared on any DVD or anything. Like, it's a shame.
No, I've
I'm
never
guessing
seen the actual scene. It's too bad.
No.
It must not.
Yeah.
It must not exist because by now somebody would have pulled
and back then, studios just once they edited, they chucked it away. Unfortunately,
yeah,
it's a shame.
It's really sad.
I just want to mention how much I adore how Sissy Spacek transforms at the end. Like just the physicality of her acting when she goes from prom queen to this monstrous, otherworldly woman. It's just, it's an incredible performance. It's like a completely different person.
Yeah.
And it's just so physical. Her body is all tense and contorted, and her eyes are so fierce. It's just incredible.
It is. It's like
it just gets me every time.
She turns reptilian or Nosferatu almost. Or something. It's just, it's that dramatic a transition. It's just amazing.
And she almost looks taller as well.
Yeah. Didn't De Palma say eyes open, wide open, keep your eyes wide? She said in the interview. Doing that scene with the pig's blood, and she had to keep her eyes wide. She looked almost like alien-like.
Yeah, she really does.
And it's quite remarkable, that scene, especially after the split screen, and they cut to the wide shot of the fire and her in the back, the fire in the background. That's an amazing shot in 4K.
And I'm astonished at just moments like when that wall of fire just goes all the way up the wall, just in flames, she's not that far away from that. I mean, that had to literally have singed the back of her head. It was so
She said it's stuck.
It's stuck, scary. It's really scary to see that moment.
But that shot was that shot will always be in my memory.
Me
the
too.
Shot with the fire coming up. I adored that shot when I first saw it.
Incredible.
I could not forget it.
And this is when everything was done practical. There's no effects or anything making that. What you see is what happened on set, and it's like, holy crap!
And it was a pretty and Carrie was a pretty low budget film. It was only 1.8 million back then, which is nothing much. And what you see on screen is incredible. I mean, obviously, United Artists just thought it was this weird little horror movie. They didn't think much of it, but the amount of effects in it is incredible for its budget. It's just
absolutely. Boy, they really did get their money's worth on that one. Whew.
Yeah.
That final scene. So she's been compared to Edvard Munch's The Scream, that painting. Just that sheer moment of anguish. But what I found interesting about that, her transformation, it's like she becomes woman as the destroyer. So Kali, the goddess Kali. And it's interesting because a lot of the lighting is blue and Kali is depicted as blue, and there's the blood and the fire, and how this film subverts female roles. So the mother, traditionally with Christianity, the mother is the good woman, the ideal, but in this film we have a bad mother.
Yeah.
And then we have a girl that, awakens and becomes a destroyer and destroys everything, which is a very pagan idea or non-Christian idea, say with Kali, where we need destruction and we need death for life to renew. There has to be both. It's not just woman as the life giver, but it's also these very destructive aspects which are not often expressed in Christianity or in Western culture. So I see this, she becomes the destroyer, and it's just so fierce. And her performance, yet no one else could do that. It's so physical, incredible. And also, again, back to the stars, in the prom, Kali is linked with the cosmos. So it's this great cosmic reckoning in a way. So you can read all those really deep influences into it that come from art and literature and human history and paganism into it. And yeah, you can just think about it endlessly, as I kind of have, as you may realize.
I love your interpretations of all these things, Suzanne. I find them fascinating.
But I love when she comes home to her mother and they finally embrace, mother and daughter, and they never were close. It was a very abusive relationship, and it was based on punishment all the time. And then the mother confesses about the conception of Carrie, and she's told how much she enjoys it, and it's in glee, but at the same time her conservative side is pulling her and saying, no, you couldn't have enjoyed it. It was like a dual figure.
Absolutely.
Play, and it was extraordinary what Papalori did in that scene. It still amazes me watching.
And then all the way up to stabbing her own daughter, and it's just horrifying. And then she falls down the stairs, and the mother's coming down with the knife to do more, and then that's when Carrie loses it.
And in that scene, in that scene, there's this link as well, which we find a lot in literature, which is ecstasy. So this idea of ecstasy, religious ecstasy, sexual ecstasy, the ecstasy
exactly
of death.
How Piper Laurie played it is that she
an
orgasm.
Wow. Ecstatic, and there's this idea that, say, all these types of ecstasies are almost one and the same, or very similar, and you can experience this feeling of ecstasy through all of this. And the ecstasy, sexual ecstasy, is like a little death, they call it. It's like losing yourself completely, just being in the moment, and nothing else exists just for that moment. And so we get this idea of ecstasy, and that Piper brought that out in her performance. It's so nuanced yet entertaining as well. That's incredible. She is incredible. The whole cast is incredible. But I do love that about it, that it's almost
and
a
all
sexual
those
ecstasy.
utensils penetrating her
Yes.
as she's having this sexual ecstasy. It's like, wow.
And she actually dies like Saint Sebastian, which is the little effigy that they have that looks super creepy. Like that
it
thing.
does.
Super creepy. But he was he was a Christian martyr, and he was persecuted in ancient Rome under the Emperor Diocletian. He was a soldier for Christianity. So again, we have this idea of the martyr and of ecstasy, religious ecstasy at odds with sexual ecstasy and forbidden ecstasy. Brilliant.
Yeah. You mentioned the Edvard Munch's The Scream, and I found out a few years ago, when you look at that painting, I always thought it was a man. I guess just the cliche that it didn't have long hair or anything. It just kind of looks bald. But apparently it was a woman. And so you could consider that painting to be the original Scream Queen.
Yes. I guess.
Well, did anyone know the background?
I don't know the details of it. And I hope that I'm not, I hope what I read was correct. I could be wrong, but I did read that.
Well, Munch did paint women as very horrific characters. He liked to paint women as vampires, as bloodsuckers, as evil entities, and the incubus. And he had some, issues he needed to talk out with a therapist related to women. But
so he would have the romanticized version of women in his paintings.
And also the swirls were the result of a very big volcanic eruption, where it was seen from all around the world, the ashes and the fire. And that was Mount Krakatoa.
Oh wow!
1983, and that's what influenced the background of the painting.
Amazing.
It's quite extraordinary. And I remember in arts class they mentioned Munch was saying people were foolish and stupid, and that was his rationale for doing the painting. And I thought, wow, he's having a go at his audience here. He was just like saying, "Oh, you people are weak and stupid," and that's why I did the painting. Okay.
True.
Kind of baffling it was.
Maybe that's a little of Brian's attitude as well.
Another thing that I love about Carrie, and of course more De Palma films after that, is the brilliant score by Pino Donaggio. Score, I adore it. But I know if all us fans of the film, we know this, but every time Carrie moves something, you can't help but I think obviously it was De Palma's homage to Bernard Herrmann, the psycho thing.
The psycho strings.
The psycho strings. And either that score, because I was thinking about earlier when we mentioned that if Bernard Herrmann was alive and he did the score to Carrie, I can only imagine how that would have been. But Pino Donaggio, that was a sensational score.
It really was. I'm not 100% sure, but I have my strong suspicions that the strings, either they actually stole a sliver of the Bernard Herrmann shrieking psycho strings, or they might have had Pino, do one single clean, but they, edited it as a sound effect almost. And I I don't think that Pino was in the recording studio doing multiples of those at different points throughout the film.
Right.
I think they had one of them and they just repeated it every time that the editor and Brian decided it needed that punctuation there.
Yeah.
And
That's very cheap.
yeah.
That's
But it works.
But
It works amazingly. It's so
does.
thrilling.
It becomes a signature for those moments.
It does.
Mm.
But my favorite piece from the soundtrack is obviously the scene when Carrie comes home from the prom and she sees the house inside is the whole house is literally lit with thousands of hundreds of candles.
Yes.
And that music, it I can't describe how beautiful it is and haunting at the same time.
Very.
It is a stunning piece of music.
The moment when the bucket of blood falls or dumps over, and the score has that where it just kind of winds down like that. There was a very similar moment in the Don't Look Now score, and that they used as a temp track for that moment. And so Pino kind of ripped himself off by repeating a very similar wind down like that, but it was absolutely perfect for that moment. But I remember when I saw Carrie for the first time, I had memorized every note of that Don't Look Now soundtrack, which I absolutely loved. And when I heard that moment, I almost thought that it was a repeat right off of the Don't Look Now soundtrack. But it had been redone. The other thing musically is that gets confused, and I was confused up until I was actually working on my book. The vocal song at the prom is it's written by Pino Donaggio, who also was a pop music composer. The song "You Don't Have to Say You Love Me," dun, 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 that Elvis Presley did, and Dusty Springfield sang it as well. That was composed by Pino Donaggio. But anyway, the song at the prom is sung by a singer named Katie Irving. And Amy has a sister named Katie Irving. And I, for many, many decades, along with lots of other people, assumed that was Amy Irving's sister. And I had my friend Laurent Bouzereau, who's a big De Palma aficionado as well. He's written 2 books on De Palma, including the De Palma Decade and a major Grammy Award-winning documentary. And he just won the Grammy Award for the John Williams documentary for HBO. Yeah. Anyway, I asked Laurent about that, and he asked Amy, and she said, "Oh, my sister's been living off that reputation for all these decades, and we laugh about it all the time." But no, it was just another singer who happened to have her name. And it's such a bizarre coincidence. It's so weird. It's so weird. And it's even the compounded weird when you think that Amy Irving went on to be the singing voice of Jessica Rabbit, and sang in Honeysuckle Rose and in Yentl, and it's like kind of known as a singer. And so I just always assumed, well, her sister had singing chops as well and everything. Well, Amy in recent years did an album where she sang some of her things from movies, like from Honeysuckle Rose, and she did a duet with Willie Nelson, and she sang Yentl, the songs from Yentl, and she sang this song from Carrie. So we finally have a real Amy Irving actually singing the song. It's so meta that it's like you can't even wrap your head around it. It's so weird, but yeah, it's not her sister.
Okay. I want to ask about Bernard Herrmann. Were you ever meet the guy?
I never met him. I would have loved to have met him. He's just my all-time favorite composer. But no, we were just when I met Brian, he had the audio tape of those cues from Obsession, and were premiering them for us in my cinema class. And at that particular moment, Bernard was doing the score for Taxi Driver, and then died in just a month later.
Yeah.
It was very, very sad.
I remember the Brian De Palma documentary in 2016, I think it was, where he was interviewed for Hoffy, and he described Bernard Herrmann as a very intense little man.
Yes.
And he just said when they scored Sisters that he already used these music cues from his previous films to add in the film. And he said, no, don't do that, you know?
No, he came in and they started playing the rough cut of Sisters with all this temp music from Bernard Herrmann's scores for Psycho and other things. And as soon as the first note of his music started to play, he just was enraged, and he jumped up out of his chair in the screen room and said, stop, and insisted they stop. And he said, how can I think of any new music when you're going to be putting all this stuff in my mind? And, you know, don't ever do that again. And they had to, you know, turn off the music track and play the film with him dry with no music at all. And, you know, temp tracks are tricky. They can, you know, directors use them all the time, and they can be, you know, it can go both ways. You know, producers and people can get married to what they hear in the temp score. And when the composer does something that doesn't live up to it, they're like, we liked what the temp score had better. And it happened on the movie The Artist, you know, the silent film. And they decided that they had actually temped the climax with a cue, Bernard Herrmann cue from Vertigo. And when the composer did his version, they didn't like it as much. And they literally ended up licensing the Bernard Herrmann Vertigo cue, which is in the final film. And the composer was not real happy about it. And he actually won the Oscar for best score that year. So it was a little controversial that, you know, part of the score was this Bernard Herrmann thing. But when you get the soundtrack album of The Artist on CD, or I guess, you know, if you stream it or on iTunes or whatever, it actually has the composer's version of what he wrote and recorded for that whole climax. And it follows the same template of the Bernard Herrmann thing. It doesn't sound too much like it, but the movements are all timed out exactly the same, and you can almost play them together as one piece. It's really quite interesting.
Indeed.
I was just going to mention telekinesis.
Yes.
We haven't discussed telekinesis yet, and it was very popular at this time. So I was going to give a quick historical note to telekinesis and psychic phenomena, because they were very hot topics in the 1970s.
Yeah.
I'd just written a couple of notes about how the occult revival had been brewing since the late 19th century, but the occult and New Age movement really exploded in the 1970s. And this, combined with the moon landing in 1969, as well as a decline in religion, really changed people's perceptions about the world and also human potential. So it's in this way that the occult and scientific merge, leading to this interest in the scientific study of unexplained phenomena. And we see that a lot in film during this time. We had characters like Uri Geller. He was on television bending spoons with his mind. Yeah, along with a whole host of other stage mediums and psychics. And they were appearing on television. They were getting really famous. They were being investigated scientifically because people thought there was something really behind this. So it seemed like science fiction seemed like a reality. And we also had telekinesis featuring heavily in science fiction. So Star Trek and Star Wars, we have the Force, which is basically telekinesis. I mean, Luke Skywalker's like a really kind of happy version of Carrie, who does all the story things. But these powers,
and they were auditioning in the same room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And William Cat went for Luke Skywalker. That's hilarious. Sorry.
Yeah. So the interest in these powers represented basically the unknown potential of humanity in the modern scientific age. So people were looking to the future. And what I find interesting is in Carrie, when these powers are used by a girl, it's about the potential of girls and women in the modern age. So that's kind of just a historical note about telekinesis.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that it manifests itself at the moment of puberty, of having her first period.
Mm-hmm.
She suddenly has those powers. They've just like with maturing. That's part of her maturity is gaining those powers.
Yeah, it is about a girl gaining powers.
And it happens at moments of distress where she's being bullied, and that's a way of fighting back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she can't speak up and she can't fight, so she uses it to get back. Like the principal's office was a great example. We kept calling it Cassie instead of Carrie.
Yeah, and the movie was so popular that it spawned lots of other telekinetic movies and cheap ripoffs and stuff. But also De Palma got on the bandwagon, and The Fury, his very next film, was also dealing with mind control of and now Amy Irving has powers, and Andrew Stevens, and some of it is telekinesis, some of it is mind control, mind reading, and that kind of stuff. And Brian was even developing a third film in sort of what was going to be kind of a trilogy of these things, of The Demolished Man, based on the book by Alfred Bester. And that was about this futuristic society where people couldn't get away with lying because everybody knew people could read their minds and know when they were lying. So if you were going to try to plan the perfect murder, there'd be very little way that you could ever get away with murder. And so it is this murder mystery of how how the murderer gets around this. And I think it would have made a really interesting film. But once The Fury was a very underwhelming at the box office, the interest in doing a third one, the producers lost interest. But also, I think Brian realized that, he didn't need to go back to that well, at least not right away.
Does anyone have a favorite telekinesis film that's not Carrie?
I certainly do. Matilda.
What's that?
Matilda, that's a good one.
It is.
With scanners?
Star Wars. Star Wars. Now that you've made that connection.
Would scanners count? David Cronenberg scanners.
Yeah, that's part of that wave.
I think so.
Yeah. Good. I love that film. That was one of my first nasty films I watched on video.
Yeah.
That was a Dare film back in the day when it first came out on video.
Yeah.
John, do you have a favorite telekinetic film?
There was a 70s one. I'm just having a mental blank. It's I know Vinegar Syndrome put it out. It's like these. It's a 70s one. It's something killer. This is killing me because I really like it. I just can't think of the name of it. Something 70s, like sort of.
Carrie
ripoff. No. So anyway, please go ahead. I'll find it.
I've got another Carrie ripoff I liked when I was a teenager. It was called Jennifer.
I was just going to say Jennifer. Jennifer was one. Very
my friend
direct ripoff.
Loved that movie. That was set in college, but my friend adored it. He made me watch it, and I had no interest at the time. I thought, it's a Carrie ripoff, and then actually liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It had a different theme. She had Southern Baptist powers made her what she was. That was quite interesting.
There was also a blaxploitation movie around that time, and I can't think of the name of it, but it was also, I think, a girl's name, like Angie or something. I forget what it was.
Ruby.
Ruby. That's
Ruby.
it.
Yes, Papa Laurie in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also really like a made-for-telly movie. I just can't remember it really well, but it's Carrie ripoff territory. It was called The Initiation of Sarah or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, I haven't thought about that in a billion
years. Yeah. That's one I really like. And again, that's got the bullies and it's very, very Carrie-esque, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. For sure.
And I was going to add a quick historical note just about where Carrie and these films fit in with kind of pop culture about girls. So the 1970s was actually a really interesting time for film and literature about teenage girls. In the 60s, they were generally represented in film as either bad girls, like in those rock and roll movies, or reformatory girls, or they were squeaky clean debutantes, they were party girls in beach movies.
Yeah.
But in the 1970s, young adult fiction really kind of came into its own with what were called issues novels. And they were really popular. They were books for young people that really frankly addressed issues like sex, drugs, alcohol, gender, race, peer pressure, everything you can think of that would concern teenagers. The most famous examples of these were probably, say, by Judy Blume, who wrote Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which was in 1970. And there was Forever in 1975. This whole wave of books for young adults was reflected in films like telemovies, Sarah T., Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic, 1975, Born Innocent, 1974, both with Linda Blair.
Yeah,
and then of
Linda
course, Blair. We get William Friedkin's The Exorcist, 1974, and that was a really graphic introduction to this concept. And we can also kind of put Picnic at Hanging Rock in there, which took a more subtle approach. And these films were concerned about the transformation from child to adult, but particularly in regards to girls. These were by no means the first teen female-oriented horrors, but they were the big US ones that kind of punched this concept out. There had been films like Valerie and Her Week of Wonders in 1970, Don't Deliver Us from Evil, 71, Lamora, A Child's Tale of the Supernatural, 73, and maybe we can even put Twins of Evil in there.
Oh, wow. Good idea.
Yeah, they're young girls. They're finding their own.
Yeah.
But it was this whole wave of horror about girls' bodies, coming of age, sexual discovery, and Carrie made a really important contribution to this growing wave of fiction and film with female perspectives, and these were like a vehicle to express these sometimes frightening changes or the uncertainty of puberty for girls. So
I would add to that list, I think it was 1970, it was called, at least in America, it was called The House That Screamed.
Oh, yeah.
With Lily Palmer as the head mistress of a reformatory of girls, wayward girls, and the teenage boy played by John Mulder Brown, who was also in Vampire Circus. He is, I remember, it's very beautifully shot, very creepy and gothic period film. But he's a voyeur, and he's always spying on the girls in the shower, and incidentally, through little peepholes and things like that, and seeing the girls in nude and these teenage girls. And you don't want to be too much of a spoiler, but you know, he collects, you know, he does murder and collect body parts, and it's got some psycho, you know, Norman Bates stuff kind of mixed in with it, but very much all of those reform girls and the showers and everything else has a lot of things that I feel like Carrie ended up exploring.
I love that film. I absolutely love it.
I do too. I think it's so underrated, and
Yeah.
not too many people have seen it. Not enough people have seen it.
No.
It's French.
And it's either French or I think it might have been
Spanish?
shot in Spain. I'm not 100% sure, but
I do have it here
I really
somewhere.
like it too. Yeah, I thought it was Spanish for some reason. That film, I really
So
like
did
it.
I.
I think it's a
It is.
fantastic film.
Don't listen to me.
No, and sorry, by the way, that film. Sorry, I couldn't think it was called Psychic Killer. Sorry, and it came out a year before Carrie. It's an interesting film. It's about this guy that gets basically put away for a murder he didn't commit, and from the jail, he's got these psychic powers. He's actually getting revenge on people. It's an unusual 70s exploitation film, but yeah, that was the one. Sorry, I just couldn't think of it. It's called Psychic Killer. So there you go. But now I know.
Fair enough. This movie, Carrie, obviously has left a huge impact on horror in film in general, and of course, I believe it cemented Brian De Palma's career as a major filmmaker.
It really did.
And it did. And but then afterwards, he did Dress to Kill. Well, he did the Fury, then Home Movies. I haven't seen Home Movies. That's a hard one to find.
It's very hard to find. Yeah,
I still haven't seen it myself. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, but one of my personal favorites, and Ron and I, we actually saw it theatrically recently, was Dress to Kill.
Yes.
It's
great fun.
It's such a great movie, and but I believe it's also one of Pino Donaggio's best scores. Personally.
It is, and the museum sequence where Angie Dickinson and the stranger are having this sort of cat and mouse flirtation, and all the Steadicam and everything. It's the most incredible set piece. And when people say that Brian's films are operatic, that is an operatic moment. There's no dialogue. It's all the symphony of Pino Donaggio's cue. Nancy Allen had hosted an anniversary screening of that a few years ago at the Egyptian Theater here in LA. And at the end of that sequence, which goes on for 10 or 15 minutes, with no dialogue and just that incredible Pino score, there was a huge, thunderous round of applause at the end of that sequence. I mean, how many times have you been in a movie? It's one thing when people clap at the end of a movie.
Yeah. That's a first, I gotta say.
Sequence it is. I don't remember that ever happening. And
wow.
It holds up that well.
I remember when I watched The Untouchables in 70mm, it was packed house, the city, Pitt Center.
Yeah.
And the scene with the Battleship Potemkin reference to the baby stroller, which is wonderful scene, down the stairs. And Andy Garcia slides down the last moment and throws the gun in slow motion to Kevin Costner. They put like the same thing you said.
They burst into applause.
Everyone applauded, went nuts at that scene. It was an amazing scene, though.
Wow. That's great.
That was extraordinary, I mean, yeah.
Only De Palma can pull that off. Definitely.
I know, it's very true. His set pieces, I mean, they can't be beat.
But he learned well from the theory of Hitchcock. Remember the film Terror in the Isles with Nancy Allen, Donald Pleasance hosted? That came out in 1984. Yes. And they had the interview Hitchcock talking about the bomb. Talking about, you can have a bomb go off and boom, that's it, nothing happens. But he says, put a bomb under the chair, two people talking. Then the people in the audience starts getting antsy, going, don't talk about that. There's a bomb under you.
Yeah, there's a bomb under there. Yeah, you have
there's
to
a bomb under there, you know.
Let
them know, straight off, that the bomb's there and get everybody riled up about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Carrie works in the prom scene. You know, the pig blood's there.
Yeah.
Everybody's rolled up because nobody's paying attention.
You're so right. You're absolutely right. I mean, that probably more than anything is one of the more Hitchcockian things about that movie is letting the audience in on that secret.
Because you don't want this thing to happen to Carrie. And then, but the horrifying thing about after all the blood goes on her, everyone starts laughing. Even the teacher who was her kind of a confider and protector was laughing at her. And then Piper Laurie's voice loops. They're going to laugh at you. They're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
It's
interesting you mentioned that moment. I've always wondered in my mind if it was Carrie's imagination a little bit that Betty Buckley, the teacher, was laughing along with them. And I wasn't 100% sure if that was actually happening or if it was happening in her perspective, in her mind, in the same way that she was hearing her mother saying, "Oh, I'm gonna laugh at you."
Yeah. Almost
I thought it was in her mind because how
That's
it's
what I
all
thought.
kaleidoscopic. So the girl in the baseball cap, she's a mean
PJ
girl.
Souls.
PJ
Souls. She's wonderful.
The great
She's one of the
PJ
mean
Souls.
girls. She's definitely laughing, but then it kind of changes to this kaleidoscopic because everyone looks so horrified and is so
no one's
silent.
laughing at all, and they're quite
No
shocked
one's
by
laughing.
it.
They're just shocked, and it is horrible. And then it turns into this kaleidoscopic kind of effect, and I thought it's all in her mind. She just snaps.
Yeah.
I thought it was in her mind as well. I believe Norma's character, I believe PJ Souls' character Norma, she was the only one who was laughing throughout the whole audience. But But then
was in on it.
Yeah.
And I thought if the teacher was Betty Buckley's teacher was really the protector, she would have went up on stage and took her off.
Yeah.
'Cause that's normally what would happen if a girl was covered in pig's blood at the prom. One of the teachers would get up and then escort her off. So it does seem kind of dreamlike from that moment. Nobody's there to actually take her off stage and say, "Oh, we'll get you home. We'll take care of this. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
But that adds to the horror more to it that everyone's laughing at it. But it could be the fact that people did back then laugh at something that horrible. I mean, we laughed at somebody slipping on a banana peel and falling in their neck.
We can all be pretty cruel at times when you think of those video montages of people slipping on ice and everything else, and I'm laughing away at them. I have to say,
I'm guilty of
it.
I think we're all guilty of that.
We're all guilty a little bit.
That's definitely true.
Have we got a quick round table? What's your favourite De Palma film? Very quickly.
Oh, please.
For me, it's Carrie. Hands down.
Yeah.
My dog agrees.
Mine.
What's your dog trying to say?
mine is Dressed to Kill. I love Dressed to Kill.
Very good.
Okay.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm thinking mine's probably Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Paradise, sorry. Getting confused with its inspiration because I love musicals, and so for me that's the character of Beef is fabulous. Everything I wanted to see in that character, the costume design and the music for me, that's probably my favorite, closely followed by Carrie.
It's incredible too. It's hard to pick.
John, what's yours?
Oh, it's just so difficult. And even through different stages of my life, that keeps changing as well. So I don't know. So right now, I think Blowout's definitely my favorite at this point. Even though, at one stage behind you, Suzanne, Body Double was one of my favorites as well. It's so hard to pick, but definitely. But he's just so diverse in the genres he's done, and people forget he's done big budget films, small budget films, like so diverse. But it's hard to pick. And I will make a note quickly, even I gotta say, just off topic, but I do love Raising Cain, the reconstructed cut of that film, because originally it was all, I don't know, it was all kind of chopped up by the studio. But then if you watch the cut put in order, it's one of my favorite De Palmas. I love it. I love that cut. It's just even though it's seen as one. The new cut.
I've never seen that cut. I've got to check that
I've
out.
seen.
It's on this release. It's on the Shout Factory release.
You've got to see it.
It's a really good cut.
Sure.
And they put it up there for
it in the theaters. Oh,
yeah. Well, a lot of people did.
I hated it. I loved it. I couldn't believe it. It was a De Palma film.
No, and that recut made me appreciate that was actually a top 3. That recut was
that recut version is definitely.
You've got to see it, Sam. It's unbelievable because they put it in order as De Palma intended. I don't know. Do you know much about what happened there, Sam? Or no?
I don't know the details. Yeah, that was long after I had left.
But because that was the 90s. Yeah, 90s. Yeah. But it's amazing. But sorry to go off topic. But that's fun to mention the reconstructed cut of Raising Cain.
Yeah. Suzanne, what's your favorite?
To hear what your favorite is.
Oh, I actually mentioned it earlier, but it was Carrie and Blowout, and I have to give an honourable mention to Holly Does Hollywood, because that sequence to the Frankie Goes to Hollywood, I just adore that so much. I watched it again the other night and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this scene. It's so great. And I think in that horror movie that came out in the last few years, Maxine, I reckon that totally is
body double. Yeah,
Holly does Hollywood
body double,
yeah,
except
they use a
absolutely
different
right.
Frankie song. Yeah.
Relax.
What's yours?
Do I have to pick a favorite? I mean, I've been watching so long. I mean, all right. Can I do top 5?
Fine. Okay.
All right. So yeah, we'll go Carrie, of course. Go with Book Blowout. Definitely Scarface. Nobody's mentioned Scarface, but I love it to death.
Yeah.
And every time it shows in the theater, I'm the first one to run to see it. And, that's my obsession with Scarface. And The Untouchables in 70mm was beautiful on a massive screen.
Absolutely.
And a guilty pleasure was no one ever talks about Casualties of War.
Oh, yeah.
My mother loved the film because her brother went to Vietnam, of course, so he liked watching any films about Vietnam. But he made a great point in the interview saying young, impressionable kids were going out there committing atrocities overseas.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of the film. And I think it's a very powerful film in a lot of ways. And it was a lot more powerful than, say, Deer Hunter Apocalypse Now and its message about, kids doing awful things.
Yeah.
And getting away with it too. There wasn't really much of a trial. They just they got slapped on the wrist for what they did.
Yeah.
I saw that in the theater and that made a huge impression on me as well.
That's actually Quentin Tarantino's favorite Vietnam movie is that film. He's said that many times. It's very underrated.
No, that's very true.
Yeah, no one ever talks about
amazing.
it.
It's amazing in the theater, that
It's
film.
very underrated.
Wow.
People forget about that film.
It is very powerful. It's a very shocking film too.
Well, I guess we can end the episode there on our favorite De Palma films. It's just so many to mention, I know, but this was a fantastic recording. And Sam, once again, your personal views on De Palma's work, and of course your love of Carrie and more behind the scenes details. Sorry, it means the world that you shared that with us, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I had a great time. It's been a wonderful discussion. I've learned so much from all of you.
Yes,
we learned from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, but I'll mention it again. If you're in Australia, unfortunately, you can't get Sam's book physically, but you can get it on Amazon Kindle and on Audible, and Sam narrates the whole audiobook.
You can order the physical from Amazon.com. They ship to Australia.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Book.
Okay.
Yeah. It's available.
I did look it up, so you can get it. Just go to the American Amazon, and when it says, "Do you want to go to Australia?" No, go to the American one. Order it. And I was going to ask as well, Sam. So this follows on from your first book, and you mentioned there will be another one.
There will be.
I know we're just doing this one, but
it's the volume 3 will cover my own directing career and writing career and all of that. I directed, for those who don't know, I directed 55 movies. The one that's most well known is Elvira's Haunted Hills. So there'll definitely be a chapter or two about that. And I directed the 2 Oblivion films for Charlie Van's Full Moon, and there'll be a chapter on that. And I've directed 9 Christmas movies. There'll be a chapter on that. And it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's a ways off because I've got a lot more writing to do on it.
Oh yeah, but you've also directed the series Dante's Code, which I believe, which I believe just got which was mentioned when
the series just last night at the GLAAD Awards, the series Heated Rivalry won Best New Series, and the creator of the show, Jacob Tierney, in his acceptance speech mentioned several inspirational gay shows, including Will and Grace, Queer as Folk, and Dante's Cove. And I was so thrilled that he mentioned our series, and I was really thrilled about that.
Well deserved, definitely.
I'll just tell you, this is Dante's Cove related. Here we have a channel called SBS.
Yeah.
And that's like not a commercial channel. They play world movies, they play queer movies, they'll play things that, you know, the other channels won't. And I remember there was a stage they were playing, there was a couple of gay vampire shows, and they would play them, including that one, late at night.
Yes.
And I was just like transfixed, like, because I love vampires. And I turned it on, like, wow, this is like a sexy vampire show. So I used to love watching those late at night. And don't tell anyone. I think my mother did as well. But anyway.
That's great.
I used to work at SBS, and I remember when Queers, I was working there 4 years, and I was in public relations, and I remember Queer as Folk was quite big at the time. But unfortunately, we had to deal with the crazy homophobes that called up, and I used to love taunting them. And believe me, I did. I had a lot of fun tormenting them, and they didn't like what I had to say back at them. But I thought, tough luck, you called up and you dared to challenge me, so I'm going to challenge you, and I did.
That's right.
But it was hilarious.
My favorite channel.
Yeah,
it was fun.
That's really great to hear.
Okay, well, everybody, well, thank you once again. Now, I can't wait for this answer. Suzanne, where can people find you on social media?
Well, on Letterboxd, I am known as Dirty Pillows.
Great.
I've had that name on Letterboxd for ages.
That's hilarious.
And when I was, you know, setting up my Letterboxd account, it said username, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, Suzanne's taken. Oh, Dirty Pillows. So there you go. I am Dirty Pillows on Letterboxd. You can follow me. You can follow me on Instagram,
So
Suzanne Boleyn. So we just didn't talk about the Dirty Pillows enough today. We've covered so much, but
I know.
one of the best lines in cinematic history, Dirty
great.
Pillows.
Amazing.
And when I heard that, what, dirty pillows, of course. I'd never heard it before. My friends and I were always, I can see your dirty pillows. Everyone will. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Ron, where can people find you on social media?
Ron Pettersson, PETTERSSON. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So I don't really do much on Letterboxd. I haven't written in quite a while, but I mainly do most of my work on my own pages and Instagram. Well, I just follow the news on it, really. But all my film stuff is on Facebook. So you're welcome to come and visit if you like.
Of course. Paul, where can people find you on social media?
I'm on Letterboxd as well. It's just Paul Berriman, my name. Unfortunately, not as a creative name as Suzanne's account, but yeah, very active on Letterboxd and on Facebook as well, and part of the Imprint fan pages that we have, the Imprint cast and the Blu-ray group.
John, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm also on Letterboxd. Just my name, it's John Mathews, but with one T, so you can narrow me down. I'm on Facebook as well, on the Blue Imprint Collection fan page as well. You can find me there, and those are my main sort of platforms I use.
And Sam, where can people find you on social media?
I am on Facebook under Sam Irvin, spelled IRVIN, and I'm on Instagram, Sam_Irvin_director.
Awesome. And you can find myself on Instagram and Letterboxd under FilmNut79, and of course on the Imprint Film Blu-rays Collection fan group and Imprint Cast Facebook pages, where all of us family members are interactive on there. If you'd like to ask anything about this episode in particular, or anything about Carrie or Stephen King or even Sam's work, feel free to ask and we'll answer as much as we can. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you once again. Thank you very much to our special guest, Sam Irvin, once again.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening and watching, everybody, and hope you all have a great one. See you soon. Thank you for listening and watching this latest episode of Imprint Cast. Imprint Cast is a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and hoping you have a great day.